Did you know what ignited the flames of the Revolutionary War? It began not with a bang, but with a simmering discontent that would soon boil over into full-fledged rebellion. Let's rewind to the mid-18th century. The French and Indian War, a 7-year conflict fought between 1754 and 1763, had left Britain financially drained. To recoup some of these losses, the British government turned its gaze towards the American colonies. The Stamp Act of 1765 was one of the first significant moves in this direction. It imposed a direct tax on the colonies for the first time. Every newspaper, pamphlet, and official document required a stamp showing that the tax had been paid. This was a clear departure from the norm, and the colonies were not pleased. This act ignited the first spark of rebellion. The colonists, used to a certain degree of autonomy, found this direct taxation without representation an affront to their rights. The rallying cry of "No taxation without representation" echoed through the streets, a clear sign of the growing tension between the American colonies and the British government. In 1773, this tension reached a boiling point with an event that would go down in history as the Boston Tea Party. In a bold act of defiance, American colonists, dressed as Mohawk Indians, boarded 3 British ships and dumped 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor. This was not just an act of vandalism, it was a strong political statement against the Tea Act, which had granted the British East India Company a monopoly on tea sales in the colonies. The Boston Tea Party was a turning point. It brought the conflict out in the open, making it clear that the American colonies were not going to passively accept British rule. The British government's response was swift and severe, leading to a series of punitive measures known as the Coercive Acts. As the British tightened their grip, the American colonies were gearing up for a fight, setting the stage for the Revolutionary War. 1775 marked the year when the whispers of discontent evolved into the shouts of rebellion. The once simmering tensions between the 13 American colonies and the British Crown erupted into full-scale conflict, sparking the dawn of the Revolutionary War. The battles of Lexington and Concord, fought in April of that year, served as the first military engagements of this pivotal war. The skirmishes began as a surprise attack by the British forces, who sought to disarm the colonists and quash their growing rebellion. However, the resilient colonists held their ground, effectively pushing back against the British advance. This was the first instance where the colonists proved they were ready to defend their rights and liberties, even if it meant going up against one of the world's most powerful armies. Following these battles, the Second Continental Congress convened in May 1775. This was an assembly of representatives from all 13 colonies who met in Philadelphia to discuss their collective response to the British aggression. It was during this Congress that the formation of the Continental Army was decided upon, with George Washington appointed as its commander. This move marked a significant escalation in the colonies' resistance, indicating their preparedness for a large-scale military confrontation. In June 1775, the Battle of Bunker Hill took place. Although technically a British victory, the battle was a testament to the tenacity and resilience of the colonists. The British forces won the day, but suffered heavy casualties, demonstrating that the colonists were not only willing to fight, but they could also inflict significant damage on the British forces. With these events, the year 1775 became a turning point in the relationship between the American colonies and the British Crown. The once peaceful protests had transformed into violent confrontations. With the stage set and the lines drawn, the Revolutionary War had truly begun. The year 1777 brought with it a significant turning point in the Revolutionary War. As autumn leaves began to fall, the American forces, led by General Horatio Gates, faced off against the British in what was to become known as the Battle of Saratoga. The British, on the other hand, were confident, their well-trained troops ready and eager for battle. They expected an easy victory, but what they got was a fierce resistance. For over 2 weeks, the battle raged on. Day by day, the American forces held their ground, matching the British blow for blow. The turning point came when the British, worn down and running low on supplies, were forced to surrender. It was a major victory for the American forces, a triumph against all odds. But the significance of the Battle of Saratoga extended far beyond the battlefield. This victory, hard-fought and hard-won, sent shockwaves around the world. It showed that the American forces were capable of standing up to the might of the British Empire. It showed that they were not just a ragtag group of rebels, but a formidable force to be reckoned with. Perhaps most importantly, it caught the attention of France. Seeing the potential of the American forces, France decided to lend its support, providing crucial aid in terms of troops, supplies, and naval power. This foreign aid was instrumental in the continuation and eventual success of the American Revolution. The Battle of Saratoga was more than just a victory. It was a statement. It was a message to the world that the American forces were here to stay, that they would not be easily defeated, that they were willing to fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. As the 1780s dawned, the Revolutionary War was reaching its climax. The stage was set for one of the most significant battles in American history, the Siege of Yorktown. This was not just another battle, but a turning point that would change the course of the war, and indeed the world. In the autumn of 1781, American forces, led by General George Washington, and French forces, commanded by the Comte de Rochambeau, converged on the British-occupied town of Yorktown in Virginia. The combined American and French forces outnumbered the British, and after a grueling 3-week siege, the British, led by General Lord Cornwallis, were compelled to surrender. This decisive victory was a significant blow to the British, effectively signaling an end to major combat operations in the American colonies. Yet, the war was not officially over. It would take another 2 years for the dust to settle and the ink to dry on what would be known as the Treaty of Paris. Signed in September 1783, this pivotal document marked the formal end of the Revolutionary War. The Treaty of Paris did more than just cease hostilities. It was an acknowledgement by the British Crown of the United States as a free, sovereign, and independent nation. The treaty outlined the borders of the new nation and guaranteed Americans the right to settle and trade west of the original 13 colonies. It was an affirmation of the American Revolution's ideals and a testament to the sacrifices made in the name of liberty and self-governance. Although the war was over, its impacts were far-reaching. The Revolutionary War was more than a conflict between Britain and her colonies. It was a revolution of ideas, a fight for freedom, and the birth of a nation. With the Treaty of Paris, the Revolutionary War came to an end, and a new nation was born. The United States of America, born from the ashes of war, would go on to become a beacon of democracy and freedom in the world. The end of the war was not just a conclusion, but a beginning. The Revolutionary War left a lasting impact, shaping the future of the newly formed United States. It was more than just a fight for independence. It was a battle for ideals, for the very principles upon which a nation would be built. In the aftermath of the war, the young nation faced numerous challenges. The war had drained the economy, leaving the country in debt. The Confederation of States was loosely held together, with each state acting almost as an independent country. The need for a stronger, more unified government was clear. This need led to the creation of the United States Constitution, a document that would become the bedrock of American governance. It established a federal system with a balance of powers, ensuring that no single entity could hold absolute authority. This was a radical departure from the monarchies and empires of the time, a testament to the revolutionary spirit that had won the war. Looking back, we see a series of events that led to this monumental war. There were the causes that sparked the revolution, a growing discontent with British rule, and a desire for self-governance. The war broke out not as a sudden explosion, but as a slow-burning fuse that eventually ignited into full-scale conflict. We saw major battles and turning points, moments where the tide of war shifted and the outcome hung in the balance. At Saratoga, a decisive victory gave the Americans a much-needed boost. At Yorktown, the final major battle marked the end of the war, a momentous occasion that paved the way for a new nation. And at the end of it all, we saw the birth of the United States, a country forged in the fires of revolution, shaped by the ideals of liberty and equality. The Revolutionary War wasn't just a fight for independence, but a battle for the ideals that would define a nation. If you enjoyed this quick dive into history, please like and subscribe for more 10-minute timelines.